finale of Marvel's Secret Invasion just released, and they packed a ton of Easter eggs, secrets, and hidden details into the 32-minute runtime. Honestly, there's so many characters in just the fight scene alone, not to mention all the misdirection this show throws at you. Now, the episode opens on the aftermath of the main fight scene from last episode, this being when Gaia and Vara defended Fury's house. While cleaning up the aftermath, Vara gets a phone call from Fury, and I'm pretty sure this is the real Fury at this point. It just seems weird that Gaia would call Vara and pretend to be Fury again. Who knows though, maybe she was getting into character. And now we cut over to Gaia impersonating Nick Fury in New Skrullos, and this is what's really cool about Gaia. She is full committing to this Nick Fury bit. She's walking around eating iodine pills and coughing, even though Skrulls are completely immune to radiation. And what's crazy about this is Gaia is not expecting New Skrullos to be empty, because last time she was here, it wasn't, and there was guards at the front. So that's why she's acting like Nick, even though there's nobody around, because she's expecting tons and tons of people to be there like there was last time she was here. Which is also why the first thing she says to Gravik when she gets in there,
"Where is everybody?" "Locked away."
Now, Gravik just assumes this is Fury talking trash, but on the rewatch, it's so clear that Gaia is like, yo, where is everybody? And pretty much this entire episode, we're cutting back and forth between the hospital and New Skrullos. There are some other locations involved, but for the most part, 90% of the runtime takes place in these two locations. And at the hospital, Skrull Rhodey is desperately trying to get the president to call a strike, and you can tell Ritzen's a little wary about it. But again, I have to praise sassy Don Cheadle's performance because it gave us one of the best lines in the MCU.
"Did you take a stupid pill with your breakfast this morning, Admiral?"
God, I love that clip. Now, while Gaia is walking around New Skrullos, she sees the evidence of the mutiny, which if you were Gaia and you were going in here to fight your old boss, this kind of just reconfirms that he's the bad guy, in case she was confused at all. And the first guy she looks down at here is actually the guy that she brought through the gates in the first place. And next up, we get the real hero of this show, Sonya Falsworth. See, Sonya learned last episode, at the end of the episode, that Rhodey's a Skrull, and at the very beginning of this episode, she's taking care of business. That's what I like about Sonya's character. Everyone else gets information and holds it close to the vest. Sonya gets the information and acts on it instantly. Finds out her boss is a Skrull, shoots him in the leg. Finds out Rhodey's a Skrull, hides behind a doorway. And then we get to one of the most interesting scenes in the episode that is not the big fight scene to come later on. And it's this whole monologue from Gaia pretending to be Nick talking to Gravik. They're talking about why Fury didn't help them. Gravik is really laying all of his motivation out on the floor. And Gaia is really committing to this bit with the iodine pills, which again, if this didn't make too much sense during the episode, Skrulls are completely immune to radiation, and humans obviously aren't. That was part of why the plan was to bomb a lot of the world, because it would make it uninhabitable to most humans, or all humans, but perfectly livable by Skrull standards. So Gaia committing to this bit with the iodine pills is what throws Gravik, the same way that Nick earlier in the show fooled Rava into drinking the tracker. The tactic being basically to do something that you would never do if you weren't that person. Like, why would a Skrull need anti-radiation pills, and why would Nick Fury ask a Skrull for his job back unless he didn't know he was a Skrull? And it also repays off this scene that Gravik and Gaia had.
Is that what you do?
I'd lie. I'm a good liar.
And my only real complaint with this part of the show is that Nick Fury isn't really getting his redemption point. And there's even this great line from Gaia.
"Because it's easier to save the lives of 8 billion people than it is to change their hearts and minds."
But at the end, this is still not Nick Fury. So Nick still hasn't really taken accountability for this whole thing. I mean, other than that one line to Sonya at the end of last episode.
So you are responsible for all this?
Yeah. Why do you think I came back?
So while I feel like this whole scene does a lot for Gaia's character, it actually doesn't do anything for Nick or for Gravik. I know we had to hoodwink Gravik somehow, okay? I'm on board with that. I just really wish Nick would have gotten to actually say this to somebody. And if we got back to the hospital, Ritzen at this point is just lost in the sauce. He has no idea who is real, who is not. And you'll see a lot of the general public reflects that at the end of the episode as well. Except it's Ritzen's fault at the end of the episode. But still, it just reinforces the monologue from the opening of the show that you can't trust anybody. Now, cutting back to New Skrullos, Gaia baits the absolute crap out of Gravik with the harvest, and Gravik is so obsessed with the harvest at this point that he doesn't even really pay any more attention to Fury, going so far as to leave him in the chamber. Like, say what you will, even though you thought this wouldn't give him powers, were you sure? Like, I'm sure it was coded to work with Skrulls, and I'm sure Gravik knew that on some level, but if there's one thing I'm gonna do while I'm in a fight with somebody, it's not give him powers. Now it's at this point that everything in this episode starts to converge at once. We have an imminent nuclear strike that Rhodey finagled earlier in the episode. We have Gravik and Gaia sporting the DNA of every hero and villain in the entire MCU. And finally, Finally, we have Skrull Rhodey in captivity. God, that took you guys way too long. But now, obviously, we get to break down the massive fight scene. And our first real shot of Gravik here is absolutely nuts. He's got the left arm and ear of Abomination. He's got the right arm of Groot. He's got a Hulk leg and then a normal leg. And as a response, Gaia grows a Drax arm and charges up with Extremis, and then phases through a car like Ghost. And then Gravik changes his arm to Korg. And then Gaia's like, you know what, man, a Korg arm looks good, but you know what looks better? A Korg arm and a Frost Giant sword. We actually saw Thor break one of these in Thor 1. And then after stabbing Gravik with the Frost Giant sword, we get one of the coolest transitions in this entire episode, which is Gravik transitioning to Ebony Maw, which actually gives us an answer to a question we had a few weeks ago. If you impersonate somebody who knows the mystic arts, does that mean you know them as well? And to me, this clearly means yes, you can, which puts our boy Wong back on the Skrull list. And then we get this shot here of Gaia and Gravik running at each other. And there's a lot of little things here. First off, Gaia has picked a Cull Obsidian arm, and Gravik actually mirrors that on one side, but on the other side takes Thanos. Now, obviously this Thanos doesn't have the Power Stone, but he also beat the crap out of Hulk without the Power Stone. And then while they're charging at each other, they both use Captain Marvel's Super Saiyan. And what's really cool about Gravik picking Thanos is that Gaia responds with brains over brawn and goes right for Mantis. And you can see here, after putting him to sleep, she actually thinks she won. She's like, maybe that was enough. Maybe I don't have to go down there and blow a hole through his chest. And then as Gravik hits the ground, we cut back to the hospital scene with Rhodey, Sonya Falsworth, and Nick, just for Rhodey to make an ill-timed attempt for a gun and get absolutely bodied by Nick, giving a little bit of a payback to that scene from last episode.
Being as I'm not one to pull a gun and not use it.
Which also reconfirms to Ritson that Fury can be trusted and thus instantly reinstates Fury. And then back in New Skrullos, Gaia wins her fight with Gravik and immediately goes to the fracking pods and starts removing people. And all these people so far are people we've seen in every episode. We get the doctor from last episode, we get the arms dealer from episode 2, and then finally we get Colonel James Rhodes, who I would like to note is in a hospital gown. And what's really crazy about this is that this is Rhodey's attire from Civil War once he goes into the MRI machine, or whatever that machine is that he's going into. It looks like an MRI. I don't feel like it is though. But point being, if he has been a Skrull since Civil War, we have so much to unpack. So make sure you subscribe to God Culture so you don't miss a thing. We'll have a full breakdown out on this pretty quickly. But when he gets taken out of here, his feet do not work, which I think is why they made such a point in the first 2 episodes to show Rhodey going upstairs with the president. His legs are supposed to be broken from Civil War, and while he does have braces that he wears, seeing him without them just didn't make any sense. So could this be from right in between him falling and waking up? Absolutely. I can't even think of another reason Rhodey would be in this kind of attire, and there's a ton to unpack if he really has been a Skrull for that long. So make sure you subscribe for all of that. And in case it wasn't obvious enough that Rhodey shouldn't be here, we even get a line from Everett Ross about it.
Colonel Rhodes? How long have you been in here?
And then we get Ritson pretty much announcing war on the Skrulls. And I've seen a few people complaining about this on Twitter, but to be honest, guys, if you were in Ritson's position and your right-hand man, your secretary, had been lying to you for years and almost got you to declare war on the Russians, you would be pretty upset as well. But this does set the stage for the next Captain America movie, which is Captain America 4, Brave New World, originally called New World Order, which if you followed our shorts, you'd know is featuring Harrison Ford, front and center as President of the United States. So something has to happen to Ritson in between now and then. And the end of this episode actually threads the needle pretty well on some of the storylines. We've got Gaia and Sonya working together, and then we get the real ending to this episode, which is the paranoia that has set into the public. I expect this to be a big deal in future Marvel titles. And again, this really pays off the opening monologue of the show, like who can we trust? Who do you turn to when you can't trust people you've known or seen your whole lives? And then we get shots of a few different rogue militias going out and killing suspected Skrulls, some of them right and some of them not. And keep an eye on this theme because I expect it to pay off massively in future titles. So what did you guys think of the final episode? Let me know in the comment section down below, and I will see you guys very soon with a brand new Marvel video.